Hello, shooters. My name is James Towle, and you're watching the American Trigger Sports Network, your station for live news. On this week's show, Barbara Crown, publisher of the Hunting Report, will be here to tell us about safe places to hunt in Mexico. Are there any? And what Mexico is doing to keep hunters safe. David Codrea, award-winning journalist, will update us on the latest changes in Fast and Furious. And the king of armed American radio, Mark Walters from Atlanta, Georgia, is going to join us because this conversation is going to be very interesting today. And we'll have a look at this question. Is the Humane Society of the United States saving animals or killing endangered species? Okay, Barbara, take it. Tell me what's going on in Mexico because, you know, I'll show you. Wait a minute. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to show you my Mexico. This is the Mexico that we all love and want to go back to. However, I don't know where that Mexico is anymore. This is the Mexico now. When you think of Mexico, this is what you think of, at least everybody I know. All right, now there's a map of all the cartel areas, and then they're listed over there who they are, and then finally, where you think there's some white area, in fact, that's just undisputed territory. Now, let's just talk about that for a second. Where were the safe places?
Well, I wouldn't, I don't want to be quoted as saying that there's a particular spot that is safe. It clearly, the cartels are operating throughout Mexico, but are they everywhere at every moment where a hunter might be? I could show you the map of Pakistan or Iran or Zimbabwe during the elections in Zimbabwe, and you would think, who would go there?
Good point.
Are you insane? Well, I've had hunters going to all of these countries for over the past 10 years or more, and I've had no reports of any problems, any safety issues. It all depends on who you're going with, keeping your head down, don't bring attention to yourself, and don't do anything stupid. What properties are you hunting? How long has the landowner owned that particular property? There is I've received some reports about some of the drug cartels buying ranches so that they can create a corridor of private property where they can transport.
Run their business?
Right.
Are you getting as many hunter reports as you do the past few years? I mean, is it increasing or is it decreasing?
No, I have seen a decrease in the number.
Right. There has been a decrease in hunters interested in going to Mexico.
As I said.
For all of these reasons. I'm not ready personally to endorse it. I'm not ready to go on to my viewers and say, hey, you have the opportunity, go down to Mexico and do some great bird hunting or sheep hunting. I'm not ready to say that. I'm not ready to say that, Barbara, until you and I go. When we go and we come back, and we get back, then we should have a program where we can say, yeah, we went down here, we enjoyed this, there was no problems. You know, David and Mark can follow us with cameras, and yeah, that's probably not going to happen, is it?
You realize now that we have put this out there, I'm going to get calls from Mexican outfitters and say, come to my place, come.
Oh, that's all right there, because we have a lot of people here. I know David's going to jump in any minute now, so we'll be right back. Welcome back, shooters. We're here talking about safe places to hunt in Mexico with Barbara Crown. And we're going to kind of, you know, Barbara, I'm just going to say this right up front. I do know people, a woman in particular, who does go to Mexico every year with her entire family, and they go hunting. However, I'm going to add to that she does fly in her private plane, and she exits on her private plane.
And I know exactly who you're talking about.
Okay, you know.
Because she is a subscriber of the Hunting Report.
I know she is. So where are we at here?
Well, yes, a number of my subscribers that have been going regularly to Mexico use flying in a private plane. They fly into the ranch. But a number of them also have found other ways. They caravan in groups through the border, drive only during the day, no driving at night.
Yeah, nobody drives.
Not just because it's saying that some of my subscribers are Mexicans also, and they have told me, I'm not going to my ranch in Sonora this year because it's too dangerous. I have spoken to outfitters who have told me 30% of my hunters this year were fellow Mexicans who wanted to go hunting but did not want to go to their own properties in northern Mexico.
We don't hear that. We don't hear that. We don't think about other Mexican hunters not wanting to travel to their ranches or somewhere else in Mexico because they themselves don't want to go. David, I can see you're bubbling over with something. Go.
There are several points, and first is it's dangerous to fall under the no safe place illusion, because I see that argument reversed for gun control, where people say, you don't need a gun here. This is such a safe place. We never have anything happen here. And yet I know that Mark has had a recent horrible incident near where he lives. Even in Hudson, Ohio, we've had terrible incidents there and nearby. And I imagine Sharon Tate probably thought she lived in a very, very safe neighborhood. Now, I understand that the chances and the likelihood of going into cartel territory and having something bad happen up the odds. I think the point that I'm hearing from Barbara make is that it's important that there's no risk-free environment. It's important that you take informed risks and that you make your decision based on your capabilities.
However, when you see pictures of beheadings and hangings in public places, it's a little different. I mean, you got your wife with you, you got children with you. Do you want to get down there?
Well, we cannot forget, James, that there are still, like American retirement communities down in Mexico that have not experienced these atrocities that we're seeing.
They have started providing security in the hunting communities. In the background there, you can see actually there is a Mexican law enforcement car. There are law enforcement officers. We ran a poll on the website and we asked if armed guards would make you feel any better about hunting in Mexico. And I have to tell you that an overwhelming majority said, no way, Jose. Excuse the ethnic pun there.
If you need an armed guard.
But what should we be advising hunters that want to go to Mexico? I think, but go ahead.
If you need an armed guard to hunt, to enjoy your recreational time, is that going to make you feel safer? It wouldn't make me feel
Absolutely.
safe. And we ignore those dangers at our own peril.
It would, because if you go to Africa, you're going to have a government guy on board with you.
True.
And he's going to have an AK-47.
True.
Now, he's not there necessarily to protect you, but yes, he is.
But that doesn't, personally, that doesn't make me feel safer. That's an area that I would avoid personally.
Well, almost anywhere. Is there anywhere in Africa you go without a government guard? I haven't been to it.
Very few places. South Africa, Namibia, which
maybe South
completely
Africa.
different situation.
Yeah. Okay, maybe South Africa.
But most places you have a game scout with you.
Game Scout's a nicer title, but it's a government guard, okay?
But it's also a different environment than where we're talking the Sinaloan cartels outside the El Paso.
Well, that's what I think that's the point.
I have personal experience. I've been to Juarez, Mexico. I did business in Juarez.
But I think the point there is, and I disagree with a lot of the people who voted in the poll, because I may be more accustomed to having, what'd you call him? A game scout.
Game Scouts.
Nice. A game scout with me when I'm in Africa. So, I mean, he's like part of the team, except he's carrying an AK-47, okay?
Well, I know that some outfitters have been hiring these kinds of armed guards, if you will. But there are quite a few that have simply shut down. They've shut down for a couple of reasons. They've shut down because of lack of business. People are scared. They don't want to go. Sure. Others have told me flat out, Barbara, I've closed up until this blows over. I'm operating somewhere else because, quite frankly, I don't feel comfortable bringing my clients here. Subscribers go deer hunting. Chihuahua seems to have shut down. And, again, those far north areas near the border, most of those places aren't operating.
That leads me to want to ask you, David, how fast and furious you can probably give us some insight, and when we come back, about what's going on in Mexico and what influence that may have on the hunting community, if any. Hey, we'll be right back. Welcome back, shooters. David, give us a quick update on what may be taking place generally along the border. Does Fast and Furious come in there?
Well, James, I think that when you're talking about along the border with the cartels, you're talking about an area where there are factions of warlords, if you will, but these are warlords for a profit through the drug trade, and it's a civil war. And you don't know whose side anyone is on, because we're mentioning armed guards, which are members of the military or the police, and yet you take a look at the Los Zetas, one of the most ruthless of the drug enforcement gangs out there, yeah. Ex-military, ex-police.
Good point.
And that's exactly right. But Fast and Furious, just to refresh everyone, is this program where somehow or other the ATF thought that it would be a good idea to allow guns to walk to Mexico, to the tune of several thousand guns going over, and to the tune of one U.S. Border Patrol agent being killed and an ICE agent, although that was out of Dallas where the gun came from, where the ICE agent in the Mexican interior was murdered, and incidentally he was not allowed to be armed per the government policies down there. We're looking at why this is going to happen, and all I can tell you is that people say that it's a conspiracy theory to think that somehow or other our government wanted guns to be found in Mexico so that they could be traced back to American gun shops to make the case. Mark and I have discussed this many times on his program, and all I can say is this conspiracy theory, if you will, did not come from so-called right-wing extremist bloggers like myself. Where I first heard it was on cleanupatf.org, which is a website set up by agents who are tired of agency waste, fraud, corruption, and abuse. And this came from them, that the gun found next to the murdered Border Patrol agent was a walked gun, and this came from him again, and that it was used to pad statistics, quote unquote.
Yeah. And I'm actually, you know, it's hard. I can understand a program that may want to trace guns and where they go when they go across the border. The program was put together poorly, managed poorly. But, you know, it's kind of like if we go back to the Bush era, they didn't have the technology they needed, but they attempted that. And what was it called again?
Operation Wide Receiver.
Yeah, Wide Receiver, right. That was an attempt to find out where the guns are going and maybe being able to trace them.
And that, James, is a key difference, because one is a design went awry. The other, the design appeared to be to let the guns go and escape. There were veteran agents that were objecting to this, because how is it really that you can say, we're just going to let these guns escape into the wild, and somehow at the end we're going to catch Mr. Big at the end of the trail? It's clearly an impossibility. We have emails that have been recovered that show that, you know, callous statements like you can't make an omelet without scrambling some eggs. Callous statements that show that this is something that we want in order to come up with this Southwest Border Initiative, where we take the 4 border states and now we mandate long gun registration for multiple purchases.
Well, we have email trails today that show that there was discussion within the Department of Justice about using the walked guns and the statistics that this created in a way to regulate U.S. firearm sales, and they've instituted those regulations in the 4 border state areas now. Over 8,500 gun dealers are now being required to register, or not register, I say it's probably not the right word, but are now being required to report multiple purchases of long guns, of any long gun with a detachable magazine, 22 caliber or greater. And this was regulated by the ATF, by the Department of Justice. This was not an act of Congress as part of U.S. gun control. So we have a bad situation on our hands.
Yeah, we do have a bad situation, and it appears to be getting worse, because I'm starting to get reports, I know you have as well, David, that they're holding the gun dealers responsible who were cooperating in this program for partaking in the program, even though it was the government, based upon my information, you correct me if I'm wrong, based upon the government actually going to the gun dealer saying, allow that gun to be sold, and now the gun dealers are getting hung out to dry here.
There is a case in Texas that is now, and understand though that Fast and Furious was a regional Phoenix program, okay, but we are finding instances in Texas, as I mentioned. I found a case where it happened in Indiana. We've found gun dealers being told to allow purchases to go through where the person fails the background check. Okay, exactly right.
Yeah, they were just being good citizens. If the federal government comes in and say, hey, work with us on this, I don't know anybody that wouldn't say, oh, sure, okay, I'll work with you.
U.S. attorneys refuse to give them anything in writing, so now it's my word versus your word, and we've seen how retaliation has taken place. We've seen how denial has taken place. We've seen outright falsehoods with our Attorney General saying, well, I guess lying is a state of mind. Can you imagine pulling that on your mother when you were a kid? So, Mom, I wasn't lying. I wasn't in that state of mind.
The problem that we have here, and the things that you and I discuss relative to this ongoing case, as this unfolds on an almost daily basis, I think you refer to it on my show as the gift that keeps on giving, because there's something new almost every day with us. The danger here is that we now have thousands, and think about the size of the volume of weapons that we're talking about. There have been estimated 40,000 to 50,000 deaths in Mexico since these drug wars began, and I think that's a conservative number. It's probably much higher than that. We'll never know the truth. But with thousands of weapons, we have the Attorney General. Those are the ones we found.
Those
are the ones we found. Our own Attorney General, Eric Holder, who we believe lied. I believe he lied, if you look at the facts, to the House panels, has said himself recently that we expect this to be a problem. There will be more deaths on this for many years to come.
When we come back, I am going to tell you, well, I'm not going to tell, Barbara's going to tell you about the Humane Society of the United States, an organization that runs ads on TV about starving, neglected dogs and cats. Welcome back, shooters. We're here with Barbara Crown, and we're discussing an issue that I alluded to before we took the break. The Humane Society of the United States. Those pictures that we see of neglected dogs and cats, do you mean the money I'm sending, Barbara, is not going to help those?
That's exactly what I mean.
Is that? Okay, tell me.
Well, as a matter of fact, the Center for Consumer Freedom, a watchdog group, not to use a pun, but
yeah, okay. Got it.
They have looked into the expenses of the U.S. Humane Society, and what they found is that the U.S. Humane Society has a budget of $100 million.
Jeez.
And they spend a whole, well, actually less than 1/2 of 1% on animal shelters.
Here, 1/2 of 1% of 100 million is what? Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But yes, less than 1/2 of 1% on animal shelters. They are not legally associated with any one animal shelter. Yet the way that they do all their fundraising is with all of these ads that you've all seen, where they pull at your heartstrings and you see these poor dogs and cats and other animals that are in bad straits. Someone has abused them, someone has neglected them, and what ethical, moral person doesn't see that and get their heartstrings pulled?
You've got to be kidding me. I pull a checkbook out every time I see that. I've got dogs of my own.
So where's the money going? Well,
where is the 1.5%
I can tell you where it's going. They are spending it on anti-hunting and anti-meat eating campaigns. And they are spending it on legal fees and other programs where they are sabotaging conservation programs that are funded by hunters. Right now, they have gone after an organization that has been doing conservation programs in Asia to repopulate populations of Eld's deer and Barasingha deer. These are animals that are endangered.
Yeah,
they are going to go extinct. Their international branch has gone to these conservation organizations and said, if you don't stop taking money from them, we're going to do a media campaign. We're going to target all of your fundraising people. We're going to target your partners, your members, everybody who donates money to you. And we're going to let them know that you are taking blood money. So these organizations...
And that's enough to scare them?
Yes, it has been enough to have some of these organizations come back and say, thanks, but no thanks. Now, has the Humane Society come in and say, you know what, we'll match what they were giving you? And I'm not talking about chicken feed. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years going to these programs from hunters. And they've gone there and they've said, don't take this money, but they haven't offered to replace the money. You would think Humane Society of America would do anything to save a species. No.
If I'm a hunter and I'm in Humane and I give money to the Humane Society, my money is being used against me. Is essentially what's happening.
Your money is being used to shut down hunting.
Yeah, but let's make this clear too. That we're talking about the Humane Society of the United States. We're not talking about the Humane Society in Ohio.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. There is a
let's
difference.
Keep that clear.
The Humane Society of the United States is supposed to be helping these individual humane societies, but that's not what happens. And the programs that are under fire right now, just so that you understand where the money is coming from, they're coming from ranches like those right here in Texas. Right. What ranchers have been doing is they've been offering hunts to cull these herds. So the way that they get the permit is because it's an enhancement project. They take funds from those hunts and they put them into these conservation programs overseas to populations you cannot hunt.
Right.
Okay? And that is enhancing the species. So U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has given them the permits and the hunters the permits to hunt these otherwise endangered species. They're endangered in their natural habitat, but there are more of them in the state of Texas than over in Asia where they originated. So Texas ranchers are helping to bring back these endangered species.
Right.
Well, if those programs won't take the funds, now there's no enhancement. And now U.S. Fish and Wildlife will say, sorry, no permits. Now the hunting's been cut.
I do thank each and every one of you for being here. It's very rare that we get to sit around the table and actually look one another in the eyes and discuss what's going on around the world. I'll see you again next week.